Good morning.
Okay. Good.
Good morning. We're Maseches Shekalim, Perek Vav, Mishnah Dalet. The Perek Vav began noting that there are 13 shofaros, 13 collection boxes in the Beis HaMikdash, 13 tables in the Beis HaMikdash, and 13 places where you bow in the Beis HaMikdash. So the first topic that was covered yesterday was the 13 bowing in the Beis HaMikdash. Where did you do them? How many openings were there to the Azorah? Rabbi Gamliel's family and Rabbi Hanina, Skana Kohanim's family, they bowed a 14th time when they came to the northeast side of the Esvos Noshim at the corner to the Dir Ha'etzim, where they had a Kabbalah in their family that Yoshio HaMelech, at the end of the first Beis HaMikdash, hid the Aron in under the Dir Ha'etzim, under that northeast corner of the Esvos Noshim. So we did the 13 Hishtach Avayot, and now we're up to the Mishnah Perek Vav, Mishnah Dalet. Shlosha also Shulchanos Hayu B'Mikdash. There were 13 tables in the Beis HaMikdash. We're always familiar with the Shulchan, which is in the Heichal, on the northern side of the Heichal. The southern side was the Menorah, and the Mizbeach HaKtoros was in the middle. But there are 12 other tables in the Beis HaMikdash, most of which, if not all, we've learned about in Masechta Midos and Masechta Tamid, and now it's being put together for us. Shlosha Asa Shulchanos Hayu B'Mikdash. There were 13 tables in the Beis HaMikdash. Shmona Shel Shayis B'Beis HaMitbachayim. If we go to page 42, which is our replica of Midos diagram 3, and if you look at number Tes Zayin, you have an index on page 43 of each number. On number Tes Zayin, page 42, you see 8 tables. Yud Zayin are the 24 rings that they use to shech the karbanos. Yud Ches is the Mizbeach, and then Tes Vav, Tes Zayin is the ramp. So the ramp, as you recall, began on the eastern side of the Azorah and moved on the southern side of the Azorah and moved northward. Then the Mizbeach, the 24 rings, and then the 8 tables. These 8 tables, if you look now on page 47, the way they're showing the tables are a little different than the picture we saw in Masechta Midos. There was something called nanasim, little pedestals or little poles. The bottom of the pole was made out of marble, and the top of the pole was a square block of wood, and on that block of wood there were hooks. After the shechita of the animal, they hung the animal on these hooks, and according to the picture on page 47, which is picture 48, the animal is now hanging from its legs on the hooks, and right next to this pedestal or pole, there is a table, and the bottom of the animal was on the table, and the table was used to wash the animal down and wash the inside of the animal down. So this table, the Mishnah now says on page 47, Shmona Shel Shayish B'Beis HaMitbachayim. There were 8 tables made out of Shayish in the Beis HaMitbachayim, this place where the butcher shop, so to speak. Sha'aleim Madichem Es HaKravayim. This is the place where you washed out the innards of the animal. And why was it made out of shayish? Why didn't they make it out of gold and silver? We learned about this in Masechta Midos because they wanted to make sure the pre-refrigeration that the animal, it just was slaughtered, and after an animal slaughtered, the blood, etc., is hot. They wanted to make sure that the animal, the meat, did not ruin in the heat of the Beis HaMikdash, as well as the natural heat after the Shechita. And so they used tables of shayish rather than gold or silver, which would further heat up the animal. shayish marble. It's sort of a cooler material and would keep the animal after shechita cooler and would keep it from ruining. So the question is, the Rav brings it down. We discussed this in Masechta Midos. Why couldn't you make it out of gold and silver? We know that there were many miracles in the Beis Hamikdash. One of the miracles is Shelo Hisriach B'Sar Kodesh. The meat of a korban never was masriach. It never ruined. So why not make the top of the table gold and silver, as is proper in the Beis Hamikdash? And the nest will take care of the meat not ruining it. And the Rav explains, as we did Masechta Midos, Los ein somchin ala nes. You can't, on your own, build the table out of gold and silver and say God will make a miracle and he'll make sure that the animal doesn't ruin. You're not allowed to do that, ein somchin ala nes, and therefore you make the table out of shayish, and that keeps the animal from ruining. So there were 8 tables in the Beis HaMitbachayim for Karbonos. Ushnayim b'mayrav hakevesh, and 2 tables were on the western side of the ram. They're not showing this in the picture, but we saw it in our diagram number 3. The western side of the ramp, there are 2 tables. Echad shel shayish ve'echad shel kesef. One is marble and one is silver. Al shel shayish hayunoisnim es ha'evorim. On the shayish table, they would put animal parts that have to be brought on the mizbeach. These animal parts, as we learned in Masechta Midas and Masechta Tamid, these are animal parts of private karbonos. Animal parts of the korban tamid had no place on these tables. Those animal parts were taken. Remember, Pius 1, Trumas Hadesh, and Pius 2, 13 winners. Amongst those 13 winners were 6 Kohanim who brought animal parts up to the ramp, and they left it on the ramp. And then the 3rd Pius was Ketores, and the 4th Pius was which Kohen or Kohanim would take the parts from the ramp up to the Mizbeach for consumption in the fire. The animal parts of a public offering were not on this table. So this table was used for karbonos of a private person after Shechita. There may not be place on the Mizbeach yet for these private karbonos to be brought up and consumed on the fire. So they would put it on this marble table, again marble, so that the meat shouldn't ruin from the heat. Ve'echad shel kesef, al shel kesef klei shores. We learned about this in Masechta Tamid. There was a silver table also on the western side of the ramp. This is the table that every morning had 93 vessels placed on it. These were the 93 vessels that they would need to do the avoda during the day. Why did they get this number 93? So we know from learning Masechta Tamid, the Rambam says this, quoting Yerushalmi, that the Hashem's name is mentioned 93 times in the books of Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi. Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi were the last 3 Nevi'im. Malachi, in fact, is the last. After Malachi, there were no Nevi'im. And those 3 Nevi'im were at the beginning of the second Beis HaMikdash and were very important in teaching us particularly how to build the Mizbeach, and in dedication to their help, their necessary help to build the second Beis HaMikdash. 93 times Hashem's name is mentioned in their books, so they use 93 kalim every day. Those 93 kalim were on this silver table. So how many tables do we have now? 10. 8 in the Beis HaMitbachayim that they hung the karbonos on the pillars, and the karbonos were washed on these tables. 2 on the western side of the ramp, 1 shayish, private karbonos parts, and 1 of kesef for the 93 vessels. So we have 10 so far. Ushnayim ba'ulam, and there were 2 more tables in the ulam. Remember, the ulam is that big chamber, that big room. You can take a look at it, page 42. It's not exactly the way we saw it on our Midos number 3. but it's the long, narrow. It's a long, narrow room. Behind the ulam is the heichal. And as you remember, Hoy Ariel, this was made to look like a lion, so that the front, like a lion, the head is large, and then behind the lion, the body becomes skinny. So the ulam and heichal gave that look of a large front with a narrow building behind it. So in this ulam, there were two more tables. Al Pesach Habayis, Echad Shel Shayish ve'Echad Shel Zahav. One table again is marble and one is gold. Al Shel Shayish nosnim lechma panim bechnisasai ve'al Shel Zahav b'yitziyasai shemaylim b'kodesh v'lo morid. You have to understand the process by which lechem hapanim was baked. We're going to make to believe that today is Friday. Okay, today's Friday. 12 lechem hapanims were baked today. The picture of what a lechem hapanim looked like we saw earlier. There's a picture of it on page 37. It's not the challah that you think about, braided challah. So it looks like an open box. It's on page 37. They baked 12 of those challahs on Friday, because the baking of the lechem hapanim was not doche Shabbos. You were not allowed. There were a lot of things you're allowed to do in the Beis Hamikdash on Shabbos. You're allowed to slaughter an animal. You're allowed to put animal parts on a fire and burn them. There are a lot of things going on in the Beis Hamikdash that we're not allowed to do. And we learned these things out from Psukim. However, the baking of the lechem hapanim was not one of the things you can do on Shabbos. So they had to bake the lechem hapanim on Friday. Lechem hapanim was changed every Shabbos afternoon. As the mishmoros changed, 48 mishmoros, 24 mishmoros, and they switched off every 24 weeks. The mishmar switched Shabbos mincha time. So it's at that time that they did the lechem hapanim. What does doing the lechem hapanim mean? They took the 12 breads from last week off the table, and they put the 12 new breads on the table. Where did these 12 new breads come from on Shabbos? Well, they didn't bake them on Shabbos, they baked them on Friday. So they baked them on Friday. They're going to go onto the shulchan in the heichal on Shabbos, and that is going to be eaten the next Shabbos, 9 days later, by the Kohanim of that Mishmar next week. So we have an unbelievable ness. We have bread that was baked on Friday, 12 challahs baked today, Friday. They're not going to be eaten for 9 more days till a week from tomorrow, a week from Shabbos. And it was a tremendous miracle. When they took the lechem hapanim off the table on Shabbos, it was still smoking. It looked like it just came out of the oven, the oven. So how did they make this transfer? So Friday, they baked the lechem hapanim, but they can't put it on the table because the table has the 12 lechem hapanims that are going to, from last week, that are going to stay there till tomorrow. So they baked the lechem hapanim today, Friday, and they brought it into the ulam, and they put it on the shayish table, and they left the 12 challahs on the shayish table. Again, shayish, because they want to make sure that the heat of silver or gold does not further heat up this bread that just came out of the oven, and the bread would go bad, go moldy. Again, why didn't they make the tables out of gold and silver and put the lechem on it? After all, the lechem is going to be the subject of tremendous miracles. It's going to remain hot for 9 days. Again, the Rav tells us, Ein somchen alanes. You can't bake the breads, leave it hot, and put it on a gold and silver table and say, don't worry, you won't get moldy, I'll rely on God. You're not allowed to live life that way. So you bake the bread, and you put the bread, you make your human hishtadlus, you put the bread on a table of shayish until the next day. The next day, Shabbos afternoon, what did they do? They took the bread off the shulchan in the heichal, which has been there now for 9 days. They took it out. They took the new bread that was on the marble table in the ulam, and they took the new 12 breads and put it on the shulchan. They took the 9-day-old breads that are still smoking and brought them out to the gold table in the ulam. And the reason, and it stayed on the gold table until they were able to distribute it to the kohanim of that mishmar. Why? on the gold table? Why didn't they make that table also marble? So the Mishnah tells us a new rule. Mailam bakodesh v'lo moridin. The 12 breads that I just took off the table that are going to be eaten, where did they come from? The shulchan in the heichal. The shulchan in the heichal is made out of gold. And the rule is Mailam bakodesh v'lo moridin. You go up, you don't go down when you're dealing with hegdish. So, for example, we gave this example when we learned Masech Midos. Machlokes Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai how to light Hanukkah candles. Beis Shammai says on the first night you light 8, and on the last night you light 1. Beis Hillel says on the first night you light 1, and on the last night you light 8. Beis Shammai has their own reason. Beis Hillel's reason is Mailam bakodesh v'lo moridin. I'm doing a mitzvah. I don't go 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 down. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I go up. So there's a concept in hektish where you go up, you don't go down. Therefore, since the 12 breads have been on a gold table for 9 days, when we remove them so that the Kohanim can eat from them, we don't put them on anything other than a gold table, because even breads, it's a mitzvah. The breads have been on a gold table for 9 days. We take it off a gold table, we put it on a gold table in the ulam till they can be distributed. However, the 12 breads that were just baked, they were put on the marble table. So again, it's Friday, 12 new breads have been baked. They are going to go on a marble table and wait there till tomorrow afternoon, Shabbos afternoon. The 12 challahs that are still smoking for 9 days are removed from the shulchan in the heichal and put on the gold table for distribution to Kohanim. And the 12 challahs that were on the freshly baked that are smoking, that were on the marble table, are now going to go into the heichal and go onto the shulchan. So how many tables do we have now? 12. 8 in the Beis HaMitbachayim to put the animals on in order to wash them down. 2 on the western side of the Mizbeach, of the ram. 2 in the ulam that dealt with the lechem aponim. And the Mishnah now says, "Ve'echad shel zohav mi befnim sh'ov lechem aponim tamid." And that's our shulchan that we always refer to, the gold table that's in the heichal on the northern wall of the heichal. That's our famous shulchan. So we have 13 tables in the Beis Hamikdash. Mishnah Hey, Shlosha Asa Shofaros. The first Mishnah we learned in the Perek said that there are 13 tables, 13 bowings, and 13 shofaros, 13 collection boxes. We learned about the 13 bowings, or 14 according to Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim. We learned about the 13 tables. Now we're going to learn about the 13 pushkas, or collection boxes. Shlosh Asa Shofaros Hoy B'Mikdash V'Kosav Aleim, and each box had something written on them. And these things were written on them in Aramaic, because that was the language of the people, unfortunately. That was the tongue that they spoke. So it said a different thing on each box. Tiklin chadatin. Chadatin means new shekel. Another box said tiklin atikin. Atikin means old shekel. Kenan, one box said pigeons. One box said gozle ola, like small little birds. And these 2 boxes were for an ola. We'll see what this means in a minute. Eitzim, a box had written on it Eitzim. Somebody wanted to donate money so that the Beis HaMikdash can buy wood for the maracha. You put it in the box called Eitzim. Levona. Lavona is a type of spice, one of the incenses. Somebody wants to donate money for the Beis HaMikdash to bring Lavona on the Mizbeach. He put some money into that pushka. Zahav lakapiris. Then there was a pushka that said gold for the covering. You want to donate money to help cover the walls or the floor of the Kodesh Kodashim with gold or to fix it up. The box was called Zahav lakapiris. That's 7 so far. Taklin Chadatin, Taklin Atikin, Kenan, Goizle Oila, Eitzim, Levina, Zav Lakapiris. 7 boxes so far, and Shisha, 6 boxes, Linadova. 6 boxes are for a nedava. There are 6 boxes that simply say the word on it, nedava. The Mishnah is going to talk about this in a minute. So, what are these boxes for? Mishnah continues on 4950. Tiklin chadatin. Shebechol shana v'shana. The machzas hashekel that had to be brought every year. If you came to the Beis Hamikdash yourself, you deposited your machzas hashekel into the box called that was written on it, Tiklin chadatin, new shekel. If you gave your machzas hashekel to a city collector, the city collector brought the machzas hashekel for the people of that city to the Beis Hamikdash, and he deposited the machzas hashekel into the box called Tiklin chadatin. Atikin. There was another box that said old shekel. Mishaloi shokel eshtakad shokel shana haba. Somebody failed to get his machzas hashekel in before Pesach or before Shavuos. 15 days, we know that the withdrawals are made first thing Nisan, 15 days before Shavuos, 15 days before Sukkot. And any money that comes in after that last withdrawal is going to be shiorei lishka. Remember, we learned about the first withdrawal is made and a blanket is put on top of it. The second set of money comes in and the blanket's put on top of that. Then the third set of money comes in, and this money was withdrawn, as we learned, the first set, first day Nisan, the second set 15 days before Shavuos, the third set 15 days before Sukkot. Any machzas hashekel that came in after that point, you brought it in after Sukkot, so it's machzas hashekel, you took care of your obligation, but your money is not going to go for a carbon. It's too late, because the 3 withdrawals for karbonis were already made. So what will your money become? Become shiorei lishka, the leftover in the lishka. And we learned earlier in the Masechta what shiorei lishka money is used for. So there was another box. There was a box called the new shekel, which means you brought the shekel into the Beis Hamikdash on time, meaning at least before 15 days before Sukkot. Then you had a box that said old shekel, because it's not going to be used anymore for this year. It's going to be used for shiorei lishka. The Mishnah now says, Keenan. There was a box that said on it, pigeons, hein torim. Those are pigeons. The gozle ola, and the box that said on it, gozle ola, hem b'nei yaina. They're like doves. So if you, and here we're going to have a machlekes. V'kulon ola stiffer Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda's shita is that a person that was mechuyav to bring birds. For example, we'll use this as an example, a woman who gave birth, after she's going through her process of becoming ritually pure again, she brings birds. That is not money that will go into these boxes according to Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the woman would have to go to a Kohen and give the Kohen the money, and the Kohen would bring the birds on the Mizbeach. The boxes, according to Rabbi Yehuda, were only for Nedava. Someone wants to bring a Nedava. He's not required to bring pigeons. He's not required to bring a bird. He wants to do a Nedava to the Beis Hamikdash. So he puts, if he wants to bring kinim, pigeons, he puts it in the box called kinim. If he wants to bring doves, he puts the money in the box of gozle ola. And these will be ola. The pigeons in the box of Torin, or the pigeon in a box of gozalos, whether it's the box of pigeons or the box of doves, the money in those boxes will be used to buy birds. That will be a korban ola lashem. If it's a required pigeon or a required dove, then you don't put it in this box. The reason why Rabbi Yehuda wants it done this way is because in the box, if a woman, for example, who gave birth, and she would put her money in the box requires, a woman that gave birth has to bring 2 birds. One bird is going to be an ola, and one bird is going to be a chatas. There's a halacha called chatas shemesu ba'aleh. Someone's required to bring a chatas, he designates the animal or the bird, and La'aleinu, that person dies. You can't bring that korban chatas anymore. A chatas that is ownerless, the owner has already died, you can't bring it to the mizbech. It has its own separate halachas, what you do with this animal. Therefore, Rabbi Yehuda says, if you throw into this box, if, for example, a woman who gave birth would throw into this box money for her ola and her chatas, and then she would chas v'shalom die before her chatas pigeon is brought, it would not be proper, because if she died, you can't bring that pigeon chatas anymore. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda says we're going to keep this simple. The box of pigeon, the box of dove, is only for nedavos. Somebody wants to donate birds, doves, pigeons, that's where you put it. If you want to actually bring a dove or pigeons because you are mechuyav, you're required to do it, do not put it in this box. It goes to the Kohen, and the Kohen can then keep track. It's an ola, it's a chatas, which woman, is she alive, did she die, chas v'shalom, and therefore the karbanos can be brought properly. That's Rabbi Yehuda Shita. The Chacham disagree. They say, Kinem echad chatas v'echad ola. In the box that says pigeons, you can put in money for a ola and for a chatas, and the Kohen, when they open the box, the Kohen is going to take out money. Half the money is going to go for an ola, half the money is going to go for a chatas, and everyone's happy. He's going to break down the money. But what happens if a woman died? So the Chacham say we're not worried about people dying. If it happens, chas v'shalom, it happens. But we're not going to create a system inside the collection process where, oh no, maybe the person died. Chacham are not choishish for that, and therefore all the money goes, whether it's required birds or the dove birds, it all goes into the box. Echad chatas ve'echad ola. The Chacham say that in the box of Kinim, there, from that money you buy chatas and ola. The gozle ola, in the box that says gozle ola, kulan olos, those will all be olos. Okay, so we learned about we finished now the sugya of the 13 shofaros. We learned about the 13 shulchanos. We learned about the 13 hishtachavoyos. The only thing the Mishnah didn't cover yet is it says that there were 6 boxes on it. We did 7 boxes. The Mishnah said on page 49, there were 6 boxes that are nedava. Well, what are these nedavas for? So the Rav on page 49 explains there were 6 additional boxes to make 13, and the box would be for extra money. One box said, take a look at the Rav on page 49 on the right-hand side. One box says Moser Chatos, one box says Moser Osham, one says Moser Kini Zavim, another box says Moser Nazir, one box says Osham Mitzayra, and one says Nadav. In other words, someone brought money to the Beis Hamikdash, and he said, from this money, I'm buying a car. This money is for a korban chatas. He goes out, we learned about this, and he has 10 shekel, he spends 8 shekel on the korban chatas. He has 2 shekel left. What does he do with that extra shekel that he didn't spend on the korban chatas? He puts it in the pushka that says, Mosar chatas, leftover money from a chatas. Someone required to bring, he was a Nazir, he was required to bring the karbanos of a Nazir. He has 30 shekel, he goes into the marketplace, and he only spends 28. He brings his karbanos, the extra 2 shekel, the leftover, he puts in the pushka that says Mosar Nazir. So this is how 5 of the boxes operated, and the 6th box just said on it, Nedava. Somebody wants to donate money to the Beis Hamikdash, it doesn't say for what reason. All these 6 boxes of Nedava, the money is taken out of them, and the Beis Hamikdash buys animals, and all the animals are used as a korban ola. Okay, so that's the concept of 13 tables, 13 ishtachavayot, or 14, and 13 shofarot. 13 shofarot, 13 shulchanot, 13 ishtachavayot.